grounds we're lifting off, nothing holds
For being
off.
with us, Her Excellency. Session 5 now, affordable mobility solution and micromobility. الجلسة الخامسة حلول التنقل الميسور والتنقل السهل، تعزيز الوصول الشامل من خلال إفريقيا. Solutions de mobilité abordable et micromobilité, favoriser l'accès inclusif à travers l'Afrique. So I give the floor to the moderator, Victoria Bakos-Jorling, AAM CEO. The floor is yours.
Good morning. I see more energy in this room this morning. Good morning, everyone. I would like to call my fellow participants and speakers to the panel. If I can ask Kassem Odermatt to come on the panel. He is the COO of the OG Group. We did have a very long evening at the ministerial round table, so I hope that he's actually here. But we can also just move on. If I can ask Sharon Nishi, the chairperson and managing director of General Motors Egypt and Africa, to the stage. Let's give her a warm applause, please. And then if I can please ask Mike Woodfield, the Managing Director of Stellantis, South Africa and Sub-Sahara Africa, onto the stage. He did not have any rest now after the first panel. Give him a warm applause, please. And then I would also like to ask Imed Charfeddine, the President and CEO of the PAC Group and the Vice President of the Tunisian Automotive Association, to the stage. Please give him a warm applause. Thank you. So yesterday we spoke a lot about affordable mobility and why it is crucial in order to grow the demand in Africa, the future of transport across the whole continent, as Africa's urban and peri-urban populations grow. So there is really an urgent need for practical, low-cost mobility solutions that are accessible, sustainable, and also scalable. So we'll talk with one of the leading experts in Africa, which innovative vehicle concepts are already there, which innovative vehicle concepts and also financing models do we need in order to grow the demand in Africa and grow the new vehicle sales. So we'll talk about different affordable mobility solutions. So if I can just open with you, Sharon, and I know we talked a lot about US tariffs yesterday, and now that the US ambassador is here, will not touch on that. So affordable mobility is often described as really the heartbeat of an inclusive growth in Africa. And General Motors has a very, very strong history of vehicle innovation. So how are you also adopting your product portfolio to actually address the specific needs of affordable in Africa? But because it is quite different from other markets such as the US.
Yeah, that's an excellent question.
Thank you.
First
Thank
of
you,
all,
Sharon.
before I start, I want to do a personal welcome to Ambassador Elizabeth Moore-Alban from the U.S. Embassy here. Thank you so much for attending and supporting. I mentioned this last night at the roundtable. It is really key to have a strong collaboration between public and private sector working together hand in hand to drive the auto industry. So having the ambassador here to support us is just terrific. To answer the question on affordable mobility and what we do from a General Motors perspective, GM is a very global company. We're pretty much operating in all the continents around the world, and the value that we have that we could bring to markets such as Africa is being able to take a look at our product portfolio across the globe and be able to pick and choose the ones that work best for the markets here. We've been in Egypt for over 40 years. This is a very good example of where we've deeply localized into the market. We've led the market for pretty much 40 years, especially in the commercial vehicle sector. And the commercial vehicle sector is a key one because it enables jobs. It enables small and medium-sized enterprises to operate their businesses and thrive and be successful in any economy. And in the case of Egypt and our pickup truck, it comes in at a very affordable, accessible price point. Importantly, it has the capability to handle the roads and demands of what Africa throws at a driver. Infrastructure often is still in the developmental stages, and to be able to have vehicles that can handle that as well as handle the loads and requirements of the consumer is really important. And we'll take a truck and we'll make sure that we adapt to the environment of the local market. And to be able to do that, localization is key, because as you localize components, you have the flexibility to design in the requirements for Africa. So that's one of the key sort of benefits of being able to push for, what we were saying yesterday night is that higher level of deep localization in the continent. The other thing that General Motors really believes in is to be able to offer vehicles at every price point to fit the wallets and the purses of every consumer in our markets. And we tend to come in, especially with the Chevrolet brand, at a very mainstream, mass market, value-oriented, but with good quality, value, safety for consumers. And that positioning for the brand is ideal for markets like Africa and the diversity that it has. So that in a nutshell is how we go to market. And obviously the vision in the future is, as we unlock sustainable mobility and be able to get into alternative propulsion systems, EVs, and new energy vehicles, that does offer another amazing opportunity that we're all working towards, which is to offer a mainstream electric vehicle for mainstream consumers in the market. So that's in a nutshell what we're after.
Thanks, Sharon. If I can just touch on that, because you also mentioned now sustainability, and a lot of African governments are pushing to transition towards alternative drivetrains. We also have the ambassador of Ethiopia to Algeria here, and I know Ethiopia also has quite a focus on transitioning. But the question is really, how do we balance affordability with the push for new energy vehicles such as electrification, considering also the infrastructure realities we have also in Egypt?
Yeah, I think this
partnerships
yes.
Also. Mike, coming to you, I know you didn't have any rest from the first panel to this one, but I know you're sharp. So Stellantis has recently also announced a new model for Africa and Middle East, so an electric three-wheeler. So that's a concrete example actually of micromobility in Africa. So how do you really see this with a model like yours evolve in Africa's transport ecosystem?
Thank you. And I think, first of all, let's just try and put it in a context. We look at a continent where urbanization is expected in Africa is going to double by 2050. 2/3 of Africans living in cities, which really is driving an urgent need for and demand for compact, affordable, and particularly low-emission mobility. Transport, rising challenge. Emissions from transport already reaching record levels globally, and oil still remains the top energy-related emitter in Africa, which again supports the issue for efficient, low-energy urban movement. Africa is positioned for micromobility, no doubt about it, with short trip distance, youthful demographics, growing demand for this affordable transport makes our continent that we operate in the ideal place for micromobility adoption. User cases are clear, it's scalable, urban last mile patterns, delivery, logistics, campus travel, where with micromobility you can have speed, space and efficiency. And we already see it. Market momentum is strong. Electric 2- and 3-wheelers are the fastest growing EV category in emerging markets, and really offsetting the demand or the rise in fuel costs. It's no longer, in our view, from the micromobility, is no longer a niche. It's a strategic solution. It's critical for the urban infrastructure to have sustainability, inclusivity, and accessibility. And by 2050, as we said, 2/3 of Africans will live in cities. From a Stellantis point of view, we have a very clear vision and objective to be a leader in sustainable, safe, and inclusive micromobility. It's part of our 2030 strategic plan and our roadmap very much for Africa, where we're wanting to build solutions that fit all needs. We're not only talking about the future, but it's about delivering concrete solutions that we already have. Try and put in perspective, we already have moved into that area of democratizing electric micromobility, where we have things called the Citroën Ami, the Opel Rock, the Fiat Topolino, which are really compact EVs designed for urban use. We've just increased our production capacity from 20 to 70,000 as of January 2025. And to further support that, we've just announced a product called the Fiat Tris. So all our micromobility products will move under Fiat. And this is very much part of our new milestone in our micromobility strategy, where the Tris is targeted for the professional use in both urban and semi-urban areas. So very much part of our plan, very core to our future strategy in Africa, and certainly a journey that we believe is critical for all to take as we move forward in Africa. Thank you.
Thanks, Mike. And you touched a lot about urban micromobility, and we know this is where we see the fastest growth in East Africa, but also in South Africa. I think when I moved to Sub-Saharan Africa 5 years ago, you hardly saw any two-wheelers on the roads. Now that has changed a lot with all of the last mile delivery. I think a majority of those two-wheelers are still ICE compared to in East Africa, but also West Africa, Ghana, where we have lots of electric 2- and also 3-wheelers. Do you think, because you touched on urban, we need different concepts for rural areas versus urban?
Yes, there will be different concepts, but the one important thing that will never change, we talk about, and probably a better word for micromobility is affordable mobility, but the essence of it is that the operator, the owner, not only giving him the economic freedom of mobility, but what he can generate from he or she can generate from an income position per day must be greater than the cost per day. That's very, very important. So we've got to look at innovative ownership solutions. Very important for stakeholders to collaborate on microfinancing, collective ownership, accessibility. As we know, will always be a challenge for charging. Hence, for micromobility, you need a battery swap system. And the objective to have a successful, affordable mobility solution is also having a successful, integrated ecosystem to drive it. So it's not just the hardware, it's all the products and software that go around it.
Thanks, Mike, because I always feel if we talk about affordable mobility or micromobility, we always talk about urban cities, because obviously it's a bit easier than rural areas, but we mustn't forget that the majority in Africa is also rural.
So there are obviously a number of products to support from an agricultural, small farming point of view as well. And what I forgot to mention, which I think is very important, is that as the Secretary General spoke about the Continental Free Trade Agreement last night, spoke about the fact that automotive is a key pillar. It's one of the 4 key pillars of the strategy. Just want to re-emphasize that within the automotive, micromobility has now been adopted as part of it.
Thanks, Mike. Then coming from 2 OEMs to also a component manufacturer, Imed. You're based in Tunisia, and before I ask very, very hard questions, you're also the Vice President of TAA, which is the Tunisian Association of the Auto Industry, really also a strong partner of the AAAM, and if you haven't explored the exhibition hall yet, that's towards the audience, then please do so, because TAA has also quite a big presence there at the exhibition, so I'll just urge you to also check it out. So Imed, from your experience in the Tunisian auto industry, and I think you've done very well as a country also to develop R&D capacities, and I know that's also one of the core pillars of your business. So you also have a very strong reputation for plastic injection molding, for automotive wiring. So the question is really, how can you also support the development of affordable mobility in Tunisia and the region, and then obviously under the AFCFTA across the continent?
Good. Good morning, Ms. Ambassador. Good morning, Ms. Attendee. So it's a great pleasure to be here. As you said, the Tunisian automotive sector are strongly present here on the fair with a booth with some of our partners. And you know that we are more than 300 companies working on this sector, providing components for the sector, for Europe, and also through the continent, especially to Morocco, Algeria, and other neighbors. So since a long time in the Tunisian Automotive Association, we worked with this startup, working on this micromobility component. It's product that better, we produce it locally, better the price will be. This is very important. And better we support them in terms of technology. We have the technology of the wire that we know very well. We have the technology of plastic, electronic, and integration. So these make them the solution to, of course, have some of the technology outside, but the platform, the structure of the car is adapted to the local market. And this makes the car or the micromobility system more competitive. We reduce the supply chain. We have locally the component. We know better for the repair after the sales, the repair system, and we see it. We are in the early of the phase. It's not so much actor today, but we really see it as an opportunity. We have now another new project. It's about battery. Why battery is not done locally? It's assembled. We can do that. So this is another project that we have, one of the challengers in Tunisia, working on this project and trying to integrate this system to this the two-wheel, three-wheel, or the micro car. Yeah.
Thanks, Imed. And just to add on to this, how do you also balance affordability with quality? And I think you're not only within the auto industry, you're also in the aerospace industry. So is there any lessons we can learn from that?
Yeah. So clearly, there is no discussion about quality. No discussion about that. We have a standard. We learn a lot from automotive, from aeronautic, from our business in the medical, and we apply all the best practices that we learned from the automotive market. That is, select the good raw material, be sure that this raw material will support the car during his life, temperature. We have also all the system of reliability, so all the tests, and after that is traceability. The component that we put on this car have to be traceable. We know what we are putting on it. Okay, and of course also it's all the reliability of this of the car, and there is no discussion about it. So we apply all the fundamental of the quality basis, the system quality. They are homologated with the IATF. We have a standard on the automotive, and we apply it. We apply it on this system, and it works. It works, and we have to link and to know that not quality will increase cost. If you do it well, if you have a process under control, and you reduce your scrap, you use more recyclable material. So we are going to green, to optimize logistics chain, and also to reliable product. And we don't make compromise on this. And we don't have to do compromise on this, because in the end, it is the security of the people that we transport. So it's very important that this mindset, we learn it from our experience of industry of automotive, let's put it on this new business opportunity.
Thanks, Imed. I'm happy you touched also on recycling. I know it's not part of this topic, but it's really evolving discussion within Africa, because there's lots of opportunities also for recycling opportunities and feeds back into our industry. But coming back to what you said, Sharon, in the beginning, because in order for an OEM or component manufacturer to support the development of affordable mobility, you obviously also need the support of governments. So the question is, which partnerships or also which collaborations, such as with us as an association or governments, do you really think are essential to scale affordable mobility on the continent?
Let's first talk about scale, I think, is the big answer on everything. You don't want to compromise quality, you don't want to compromise safety, and so the pursuit of scale to reduce costs, I think, is really what we're all after collectively here, and one of the cornerstones around the Africa Continental Free Trade Agreement. In terms of collaboration, I have discovered in Africa that's absolutely key. And I refer to this partnership between public and private enterprise, but also collaboration with groups such as AAAM, other industry development groups that I'm discovering exist in each of these countries that we need to mobilize. The automotive associations, there's very good examples in Tunisia, have best practices sitting here within the continent for us to cut and paste and emulate across all the countries as we all collectively collaborate around a integrated ecosystem for the automotive. So all these collaborations are important, and I think at the end of the day you need a common vision, a common strategy of what we're all aiming to achieve. And I think it's as a group of people that have this common goal in the industry, I think we're going to be unstoppable. Mike referenced earlier that this is the last frontier of automotive growth, exponential automotive growth in the world, and it's for us collectively in this room to seize and make it a reality, which will then provide affordable mobility for Africans that are, for the future, growing with mainstream middle class. It's going to enable the freedom that is so desired by the population. And I think I referenced last night that only 70 out of 1,000 people currently in Africa on average own a vehicle. And so to unlock opportunities, you've got to unlock mobility. That doesn't necessarily mean you have to replace public transportation. It's definitely a complementary strategy, but one that is crucial for the development of the continent. So hopefully that answers the question, but definitely there needs to be collaboration on all fronts.
Thanks, Sharon. And then from one OEM to the other, Mike. So, what opportunities really do exist now for integrating micromobility into urban transport planning? So, is it public-private partnerships?
It definitely has to be partnerships to make the ecosystem work. But I think the just sheer force of what's happening in Africa will make it absolutely critical to integrate into the whole chain. I mean, we look at it, the numbers that we've heard over the last few days. To put it in perspective, by the end of the century, 12 of the world's 20 biggest mega cities will be on this continent. Lagos, the biggest. If we don't address the issue of micromobility and mobility, we're going to struggle. We had a very good presentation yesterday from Jane and from the UN in terms of the challenges the continent faces with the dumping of used vehicles, dangerous vehicles, not compliant in many cases with standards. Why is it happening? It's that we have a continent that, as Sharon mentioned, has a third. Its vehicles per thousand is a third of the global average. It's because of affordability. And we will never stop used vehicles if we don't offer alternatives for affordability of mobility. So hence, for me, for us, I think all of us, it's important to address the issue of affordable mobility, to eliminate or reduce the used vehicle issues that we have on the continent, but the sheer direction that the Africa continent's taking, the population demographics, the need for mobility, I think will force us to move in that direction, and we'll have to work together.
Thanks, Mark. And yeah, there is, I think, really a big need for micromobility in order for cities also not to be congested, because this is now the best example. Qassem was stuck in traffic. That's why he's late. So Qassem, hopefully at the next IATF we see a growth in, micromobility. Cities are not congested anymore, and then everyone is on time. I'm happy you're here. So Qassem is the CEO of O Group and also of Rana Motors Ghana, also a long-standing partner of the AAAM. And we touched on it yesterday. Ghana is also evolving. Has an evolving auto industry. The government announced 5 years ago the implementation of an auto policy. We do know that there is some provisions which are still outstanding, which I think also hinders the scaling up of the industry in Ghana. But I think you and I know you're very passionate and you're pushing for it, are very hopeful that at the end of the year we'll implement that policy and we really see a growth. But I want to hear from you also, if you can share your experiences from Ghana and how you really see affordable mobility growing in Ghana. So before you answer that, when I moved to Africa 5 years ago, that was actually the first time I was looking at buying a vehicle. Because I grew up in Germany, in Berlin, and you have public transport, you cycle to work, you don't really need a car, even though some OEMs don't want to hear that. So I was really looking at buying my first car when I moved to Africa, and I was so shocked when I saw the vehicle financing rates, the loans, yeah. So that's something I never experienced before. That's why I really do think we need affordable mobility in order to scale. So Qassem, what are your experiences for Ghana? How do you see the market evolving?
Thank you. And sorry again for being late. Actually, affordable mobility, to give an example of Ghana, I think you've seen yesterday we've signed a memorandum of understanding with Afrexim, where there's a loan at low interest rates being given, which will give capabilities to people in Ghana to have more affordable loans on vehicles. But actually, I would say the problem is not there. It's more in how can we, because people in Africa in general don't have access to the loans. And usually, for them to have access, you have to have systems in place where you build banking credibility or even insurance credibility. So we don't have these systems yet in the system where you would make it much easier to build a credible file for the banks to be able to give. Lowering the risk is one of the really big issues that we face, and usually in Europe or in the US, it's much easier to have access because everything is well organized. The systems are well organized. What we did, for example, today in Ghana, what we're trying to do is we're trying to set up a database where all the dealers will be on that database, where banks will be connected to those databases, where insurance companies will be connected to these databases, and also it makes the information flow, the history of the vehicle, like everything in one place, so it can lower the risks for the banks, for them to be able to be giving those loans at lower interest rates. Thank you.
Thanks. And adding up on to that, because you mentioned creating a database, and we all know that data is key in Africa in order to do business, to understand the market. So do you think technology is one of the factors, like softwares and data systems is one of the enablers to lower the barrier for for ownership of vehicles?
Yes, actually, I would say technology and data is very important because what we've discovered, also give an example as Ghana, is the banks wants to have data about the vehicle, they want to have data about the valuation of the vehicle, and they need the whole cycle to be credible, or they need the whole cycle to be protected. As you said, we've went into a venture as an association where we're building a database. We're creating, how do I put it? We're creating a system where the banks, the insurance companies, the dealers are all on one platform where they can communicate with each other, but also at the same time where all the documents are stored, are being able to, you can review them from time to time, you can see what's happening, and of course reaching technologically to a stage where you have a full system that can give you statistics, that can build forecasts to attract even more OEMs coming into the market in the future. So yes, definitely technology is very important. Technology is becoming very important on the whole aspect of the financing, and even like yesterday we were talking about the used vehicles. How do we make sure that those vehicles are being also financed at the second cycle of being used vehicles in the future? So once you've built a full history about the vehicle, you know that everything is okay, the accidents, the repair history, the maintenance history is on that system. It makes it much easier also for the banks to refinance these vehicles as second-hand in the future as well. Thank you.
Thanks, Qassem. So maybe to touch on the financing part, because I think, the biggest thing to unlock this is vehicle asset financing. And we as an association, we don't only have OEMs and component manufacturers as members, we also have service providers like financial institutions or logistic companies as members. And I do believe we need to work together, as you also said, with financial institutions. Do you think there is sometimes, and we hear Fraxenbeck is hosting the IATF, do you think there's sometimes a lack of interest from financial institutions to support vehicle financing? Or do you think it's a priority for them, especially in Ghana?
Well, I think actually even it was mentioned yesterday, the issue is, unfortunately, banks in our area would prefer giving loans to the government than to be giving loans to the businesses, because it's much like the risk is lower for them financially. So yes, people are like the financial institutions are finding it difficult to finance assets like the vehicles, as I said, because of the lack of information, the lack of data, the lack of also, like one of the main issues like insurance, like they don't know even like if this individual is insurance-wise, what's his risk in terms of accidents or so yes, it is. For me, the way I look at it, it's a full system where you need to create transparency, credibility, and yes, then later on the financial institutions will be ready and even will be eager to even increase their investments and financing in the asset-based finance on the vehicles themselves.
Thanks, Qassem. And then maybe a question to everyone, starting from top to bottom with Mike. So what would be for you the number one action point in order to accelerate adoption across Africa? What would it be, if we can start with Mike and then move down?
Well, I think first of all, one of the key reasons we all gathered in the IATF is to move forward into Africa trade, to move the implementation of the Continental Free Trade Agreement. So I think that is a key part of which micromobility needs to be part of. And to make micromobility, affordable mobility work, we need to create the right ecosystem, which is beyond just the hardware. The one important one you're talking about is finance. I've yet to find a financial institution who wants to lend money with knowing they're not going to get it back. So we need to create that environment that micro-lending, micro-financing, all the ecosystem elements of affordable mobility and micromobility in place. And then I think it will be unstoppable, the growth that we can experience.
Thank you. I will add with it, it will be great to design, to build, and to export micromobility from Africa and to other countries. So this is a driven message that we can work on it with locally, in different countries, with our technology, our cluster of electronic, of mechatronic, of cable, and develop this car, develop this system, and after build it locally to reduce the supply chain, improve the carbon fit, and have, of course, indirectly best competitive cost. And in the end, it's to share these goods between all the African countries, so export them. So there we come back to this rule of having we speak a lot about origin. And if the components are made locally, of course, no tax. And in the end, the user will benefit from this.
Mm.
This is what is driving us.
Thanks, Imed. Sharon?
Yeah, I think achieving scale is just the start of this journey. I think Mike touched on it. You need to look at the whole of life cost of vehicles from end to end. And while OEMs and component companies are working to scale affordable automotive, we also need to look at the finance component and look at creative and innovative ways to start shifting some of the customers from an ownership model to a user model and start exploring those. After sales support, parts costs down the road comes with scale again, and resale valuation, that's tied to data, which would allow us to unlock different financial models that are more user-oriented versus ownership-oriented. So I think we got to look at it end-to-end and Mike referred to ecosystem in addition to all the efforts that we're doing to try to scale the business across the continent.
Yeah, thank you. Actually, as you said, scalability is the most important thing for the affordability to be there. But I would say data, and most importantly, data transparency in the industry as a whole. Because once we have that data transparency, we will be able to forecast better and see how we can grow and make vehicles even more affordable in the future. Thank you.
Thanks, Kassem. Obviously, I have to agree with everyone here with your priorities, but I'm also with you, Kassem. Data. I think data is really key, whether it is now for scaling up affordable mobility or for everything else we want to do within Africa. Before I ask my last and very hard question, I would like to open the floor for questions from the audience, because I know that this is a pressuring topic. So please feel free to raise your hand, quickly introduce yourself, and then ask a question to one of the panelists or to everyone. We have microphones here in the audience.
Yes, good morning. Olivier Marty from ITC International Trade Center from Geneva. It's a UN and WTO agency. I have a question concerning the EV mobility in the 2- and 3-wheelers market, because you alluded to the importance of the battery, and I'd like to hear the views of the panel on how this battery cell manufacturing could take place in one of the African countries, because we know that battery cells are usually imported from China, and this is the key of the EV vehicle. So what are the views of the panel of this possibility and for countries to work together to make this happen?
Thanks. Do you want to direct the question to someone, or Mike?
I think irrespective of whether it is micromobility or any form of mobility, it's an ongoing question in terms of cell manufacturing. I think it's highly unlikely at this stage that we're going to see cell manufacturing happen. It takes anything from 4 to 6 years to get a gigafactory online. But certainly I think there's opportunity for integration in the process. And obviously a key element that we're all aware of is the Africa continent has a significant proportion of both the critical and raw materials needed for new energy vehicles. So progressively we've got to look at how we can have further beneficiation in that process. But I think we need to be realistic. It's not going to happen overnight that we will actually be into the cell manufacturing, but integration and assembly possibly. Thank you.
Thanks, Mike.
I have the mic here.
Okay.
Who's next? The gentleman there with the microphone, yes?
Simon. Hello. Hi, I'm Simon Davis, founder of Ox Delivers. So we kind of conflated slightly micromobility and affordable mobility. Like moving people is useful, but moving stuff is more valuable. We very much have talked a lot today about the kind of normal automotive models that have existed for perhaps 100 and something years. We've seen you pointed out about what's changed in the two-wheeler segment, particularly in East Africa. Do you think there are different models for, say, cargo transport that move away from a traditional ownership model towards a service model, and how would we implement those?
Sharon, do you want to take the question, or?
Well, I think I mentioned that we do need to look at all different types of models, not just the traditional ownership model. I think this gentleman just mentioned data being key in order for us to look at other servicing models. SaaS models, I think, is what you're referring to. Other countries obviously have those types of models implemented. It does allow accessibility to solutions. But I think, again, you need financial institutions involved in that equation as well. I think if that foundation is there, I think OEMs would jump to those types of different alternative solutions. And I don't know if my other colleagues might have other answers.
So certainly goods are critical, as is people, but I think goods is probably one of the bigger opportunities because it can create revenue streams. We're all running various, well, certainly we in Uganda, we're running some pilots in Kampala, looking at different models, doing work for some of the multinationals. There's advertising revenue on the side of the vehicle. Key element is the platforms that generate the delivery instructions, the delivery work, the revenue for that. So yeah, the ownership models are evolving all the time, but it's one thing that doesn't change. Daily revenue must exceed daily cost. Otherwise, it's not sustainable.
Thanks, Mike.
Ibrahim Tabash, I'm an automotive expert working with the TAA, Tunisian Automotive Association. I'm also the chairman of Volkswagen Group in Tunisia. I have two questions to our colleagues. First is how we can address the problem of access to electricity when we are talking about e-mobility in Africa. So when we talk about building ecosystem, I think this point is a key point. And you already talked about it a little bit. It's how we can promote digitalization solutions in order to offer accessibility to as many people as possible, because as you said, owning a vehicle, even a micro mobility solution, is not maybe the best case. Maybe it's just to have access to that through platform, as Mike was saying. Just two questions about that. Thank you.
Do you want to direct the question to someone?
Maybe about the solution, digitalization. Maybe Kassem can talk about what's happening in Ghana. And regarding electricity, we don't have any someone from state-owned, but maybe the OEMs, Sharon and Mike can answer it. Thank you.
So your question is about the e-mobility related to... Okay. Yeah, we go back to the same issue. Is anyway, for me, I have another point of view about e-mobility in Ghana, for example. It's still it's still beginning. It's going to take time. Even I believe in clean energy before we even go into full e-mobility in the future. But the digitalization can help in setting up the how do I put it, is in helping maybe the companies to understand more about the use cases of the vehicles in Ghana, or how it, but honestly speaking, before we go into that, I think we need to build the basis of digitalization, make sure that the data is built properly on the whole industry as a whole before we even get there, so we can be able to understand better what's happening in that area. Thank you.
So I think certainly there are a number of very well developed platforms in which to digitize and commercialize the whole issue of micromobility and affordable mobility. But that is I know in my discussions with yourself and Tunisia, you have that capability in terms of developing those platforms. So we need to do that, we need to continually do that, but the one reality is it will be connected. And we know the use of mobile technology or mobile phones in Africa is probably one of the highest, is the highest in any continent. It's phenomenal. Just before I pass back on the electricity issue, it's a journey. We know that you've all been to Egypt. If you go into Cairo and Mahdi, can you imagine all those extension cables trying to charge the vehicles overnight? It won't work. But swap battery systems, the technology of things like range extended electric vehicles, so plug-in hybrid type of approach. There isn't one solution. It'll be a journey. But I think our objective needs to be to go cleaner. We need to also address the affordability issue in terms of total operating costs as well. It's a journey. It's not going to happen overnight.
Okay. Regarding the electricity, this is a big change maker today. We are driving the industry to produce it with green energy. And I think a lot of countries, and we have some examples, the Morocco, Tunisia, Egypt, are driving to put this photovoltaic field. Okay. In the I have behind me 2 OEM, they are pushing us to have 35% of our green energy, of our production with green energy in the next few years. And the most of component car maker, we are building this. We are transforming our company, our building, to produce energy and to use it for the production of the part. Of course, this will continue when you use this car too. And I think we know a lot of initiative on different countries and help and support to build and to have some of our of the energy with coming from green or aeolian. So this is a big subject. It's sometimes we have some ranking with that, and we are driving the industry with putting new green energy.
Thanks, and thanks for touching on electricity. I think it just also shows how complex that ecosystem is. And I mean, affordable mobility, we need it for ICE vehicles, which will still drive for quite some time in Africa. And I know we talked a lot about electric two and three-wheelers. But for that we do need sustainable, affordable electricity, which is still a challenge in a lot of regions in Africa. I see we have another question.
I have a quick question. Victor, I'm here.
Oh, okay. 1, 2, yeah.
Thank you. Good morning, everyone. Mr. Agul Muqdad, Minister of Industry in Algeria. Thank you for your all presentation that we find very interesting and important for us to get some information about Africa and the job in Africa. My question is about, essentially about human research. I think you talked about anything, a lot of questions about, a lot of priorities of technology, of anything about anything of technology and human resource. You found, I think, sorry, that human resource, it's important in it to be made in strategy or to be developing in our strategy or mobility. What about this activity or this factor, human resource? You know that we are in Africa, a lot of young people, we have to develop their competence, their skills in automobile. What do you think about this condition, human resource? Thank you very much.
Thank you. So skills development, Kassem, I would like to hand that question to you because I also know that you are running a great project in Ghana on skills development.
Yeah, I agree with you. Skills is the basics of any industry, skills development. So yeah, it is, in my opinion, it is a given that you need, in any industry you're in, especially in the automotive, you need to be building the skills. And that's why I think in a lot of markets, a lot of OEMs and even a lot of local companies are building training centers and making sure that they can develop the vocational training systems. For example, for us in Ghana, we've tried hard in changing the perception because we have a lot of mechanical and electrical engineers getting graduated every year in Ghana, but when it comes to practicality and to understanding the automotive industry, it is nearly null. So what we've done in that space is to train the instructors of the different vocational training centers, even train the instructors in the different universities, so they can start giving them more and more about the automotive curriculum in the universities and the vocational training centers. And especially, most important thing is focusing on the practical point of view, because we are, one of the main issues that we're facing is people are graduating from universities but with zero practicality, only theories, and that's where we really lack. So this is the real focus, but it will take some time to build that. And yes, I totally agree with you that the base of any industry is the skills of the people in that industry. Thank you.
So by experience in Tunisia, when we started all the manufacture of automotive part, we created the Tunisian Automotive Academy. So, and what we see today, and with the help of the VDA and the AAAM, this was one of our first initiatives: create, train, and coach the resources and the one that will develop this new product. And what is very interesting today is that also we receive people from Algeria, from Morocco, from other continents to be trained in Tunisia. And the trainees are also certified by the VDA. So this is really one of the important points to share with all the other members of the continent, of course, about this academy. And last year, until now, in 3 years, we trained more than 3,000 people. So it's great, and it's really a success story. Good.
Thanks, Imed. And I know we have one question there. I think we're all awake now.
Thank you, Victoria. My name is Frederick Sedu from Afrexim Bank. I have two questions. The first one really is, how do we, or probably let's say, how do OEMs, let me address it to you, how do you as OEMs think we can capacitize and get more out of governments in promoting signages in developing the industry? The question really is the how. We know the what. How do you as OEMs think we can really bring governments to the table, bring financiers to the table to get the industry going? And my second question is to Mike. Probably Mike has looked into his crystal ball and sees micromobility is the way with three-wheelers. I'm just wondering, Mike, don't you think this is going to be a nightmare? Kassam couldn't come here because of traffic. And micromobility, because of affordability, is just going to be everywhere. I'm wondering where we're going to run these vehicles on the streets. I want to understand where you're going. That's all I'm asking. Thank you.
So what will help development is one of the big opportunities that I see is also we go back to the government. The government have to buy this first micromobility car. For the post, the electricity, all this standard function, it will create volume. It will create the first sales. It will create indirectly the infrastructure for this car and make the business growing. Of course, after we have to have the right vehicle needed for the person.
So I think the first, I'm going to also I'll try and answer a bit of the first question. I think if we look at where we are in terms of this journey of automotive being a key pillar of the future development, industrialization of Africa, you're quite right. We need government involvement, we need all stakeholders. And I think if we look at the role that specifically Africa Exim Bank, AAAM as a private sector, the various component manufacturers have played in conjunction with government is why we are where we are, and we've worked together. So that's got to continue. So very important that not any one stakeholder can actually do it. It's got to be a collaborative effort between public, private, and bank. Micromobility, 2-, 3-, and 4-wheeler. It could be interesting if we look at the traffic at the moment, but the one thing that we must remember is the Africa transport system is built on affordable movement. Let's just take people, forget about even goods. But as we saw yesterday, the minibus taxi fleet has an average age of 26 years. There's only so much one can do to keep it going. I think in Nigeria they've done an exceptional job of keeping vehicles that were built in originally the Volkswagen factory in Lagos still on the road. But there is no replacement and affordable vehicle to that. So at some point in time, there has to be other solutions to move people around and give mobility. So as much as it is a challenge, we will have to address it from road infrastructures and things, but certainly we must remember that we have a very, very aging people moving fleet, and we've got to regenerate it, and I think the issue is affordable mobility. But it won't only be 3-wheelers, it's 2, 3, 4 as well, and it play a big role in that.
Thank you. We have time for one last question. Okay, I see. Okay, 3 but short ones. The gentleman in the middle. Okay.
So, good morning. My name is Rami. I'm the CEO chairman of QBBM Limited, based in Ghana. So, as we look toward the future of electric vehicles, how do you anticipate their performance will evolve in terms of driving range and adaptability to varying weather conditions in Africa, of course? Additionally, what role do you see the EV industry playing in the development of Africa's automotive and energy sector, especially considering the constitution unique challenge and opportunities? And if we are looking for the EV cars industry development in Africa, which one you see or you think we have to go first for like a priority for this industry cars? We have to go with facility charging systems by implementing this system, or we start by developing and promoting this kind of EV cars? Thank you.
Yeah, that was a very long question. I would direct it to the OEMs.
That was a long question. Just to step back a little bit, for General Motors, our long-term vision is we call it our 000 strategy, which is zero emissions, zero congestion, and In terms of our zero strategy, we do see a future where there will be EVs in Africa as well, but we're going to have to follow the customers' interest and demand for it, and then we'll adjust. From a range perspective, that still continues to be a challenge. Eventually, the technology and the chemistry will evolve to a point where we will get parity. But in the short term, it's going to be a journey where we're going to transition, let's call it new energy vehicles. There's a spectrum of electric vehicles from pure battery electric all the way to plug-in hybrids and hybrids. And I would say that Africa is probably one of those places where we're going to go through this journey. It'll likely be slower than some other countries and regions around the world. Nonetheless, we will be making that journey. One of the opportunities is, and one of the challenges in Africa is having good quality fuel. To be able to enable, to bypass that challenge, electric vehicles could be a solution. It would probably first be more inner-city type solutions because of the range, but eventually, and this is the key part, is you do need an affordable EV to be able to hit the mainstream. In most cases, OEMs will enter a market more at the luxury end because that's where the demand is at the moment. I think the thing that we're going to have to crack is to be able to offer up an affordable EV to the mainstream consumer in Africa. And that'll require local production at some point within Africa, and we're all working towards achieving that vision. That is going to require very much a partnership between public and private sectors because you need the infrastructure of charging to be in place. You need zoning codes to change. Mike referenced in Egypt how people have cords coming out of their third floor apartments to charge up their cars. All that needs to be addressed in addition to affordable electricity. And reliable charging points. That's one of the bigger challenges. You could have the charging points, but when you get there to charge, if it's not working, that's a challenge as well. So there's a ton of things that needs to be developed within the ecosystem to really enable confidence in adopting electric vehicles in any place around the world. And so we have to all work together towards that vision. I would say that it'll take some time in Africa. Nonetheless, I think the OEMs are all working, have strategies to get to a more sustainable future, and electrification has to be part of that, as well as connectivity. Because having connected electric cars would really unlock mobility for mainstream Africans.
Thanks.
That's my perspective. Mike, you probably have some too.
No, just the one very important point we mustn't forget, the automotive strategy for Africa, which has been adopted by the heads of state, also has the element of harmonization of vehicle standards. And we will never make any real progress unless we also address that. And there's a lot of working groups going on that. And one of them is things like fuel quality. It also covers electric vehicle standards. But we need harmonization of standards.
Thank you. Okay, we had two last questions. One from Jane. If we can have a microphone there, please.
Mine is just a comment, maybe just to follow up on what Mike was saying. If you look at the East African countries, Kenya, Uganda, Tanzania, more motorcycles are now imported than vehicles. You know, they're the largest segment. So I support what he's saying about micromobility. It is a nightmare for governments. I know governments, you know, they're already there, but governments are looking at it as last mile, last mile connectivity, especially when it comes to public transport, but they're already there. When you look at the rural areas, they're already there. And if you look at the trends, for example, because of the battery swapping technology, if you look at what is happening in Kenya, for example, this year, there's been an upsurge of electric two-wheelers because of the battery swapping. There's the issue of electricity. yes, connectivity is still low, but the utility company, about 90% of the electricity within East Africa is almost is renewable. In Kenya, 90% is renewable. There's a lot of excess electricity at night when people go to sleep. So even the utility company is looking at how do they plug in instead of wasting that electricity. And the public transport and the two-wheelers, there are opportunities that are being looked at for electrification.
Thanks, Jane, for the comment. I think there was one last question in the back. Yeah.
Hello. This is Aya Ali from Egypt, from a freight forwarding and logistic company. My question to Ms. Sharon, especially you're coming from the same country, since Egypt really suffers from that heavy area of pollution. So from GM and coming from the background of locally manufacturing over 1 million vehicles, so what is the plan for GM to move from the biofuel and to the green fuel in Egypt? For this big number of the trucking companies and the personal use companies, what is the plan for GM to move to the biofuel and fuel and to the green fuel? This is my question.
Sorry, what plan to?
The plan to transfer from the normal oil or the fuel to the green fuel.
Okay.
And the biofuel in Egypt for this big number of vehicles we have in Egypt.
Yeah, so we're exploring a number of things, not ready to really announce, but as you remember at COP27, we were able to sponsor, along with our automotive partners at Mansour, electric vehicles up at Sharm el-Sheikh a few years ago. We had over close to 80, 90 vehicles on the road that were all electric. That was a great testing incubator for us to really get a sense of how electric vehicles would be used for the population. And since that day, a few years ago, we've been working towards how do you unlock introducing electric vehicles produced in Egypt for Egyptians. One of the key enablers is obviously going to be government policies. Currently in Egypt, you can import electric vehicles for zero duties. And so we'll have to figure out a way for a business case to exist in Egypt to be able to actually produce EVs in a way that makes sense for the OEMs as well. And I think that's going to require both, again, public and private sector to be working very closely together. I think one of the items is the government has a massive fleet of vehicles that we would love to replace with more sustainable new energy vehicles, and all those discussions need to happen in order for us to be able to find a business case to produce electric vehicles at scale in Egypt, amongst all the other ecosystem items that we've just talked about. But the future's coming. There's no doubt about that. We are going to have to work collectively with all sectors to try to figure out how to unlock it in Egypt. But it's a great question. Thank you.
And I think it's a great closing statement as well, Sharon. Thanks for that. So thanks to all of you. We're now at the end of the session. And I think what came out strong is that affordable mobility is key to unlock scale in Africa. Because you heard a lot of commitment from OEMs, also from component manufacturers. We want to manufacture in Africa for Africa. And obviously, and it came through to all of the questions, the ecosystem is very complex. So there's a couple of factors which have been challenges, but we're all working together on it, also with UNIP. Thanks, Jane, for your comment. You're also doing tremendous work within Africa when it comes to the used vehicle transition towards cleaner and new vehicles. So the ecosystem is just very, very complex. So we need to address all of these challenges, whether it is a lack of data, whether it is unreliable electricity, whether it is skills development. we need to further develop. But I think it's clear we're all trying our best in order to solve this, and I do believe we have a very bright future when it comes to mobility in Africa, and we need collaboration. That's for us as an association really the priority, and we call 2025 as the year of collaboration because we can't do it on our own. We also need financial institutions like a Frexim Bank and others in order to make our vision happening, but it is already happening, as you heard from various best practice examples from our speakers. So thank you very much, and please give this panel a round of very warm applause. Thank you.
Thank you, Victoria. Thank you all panelists for your intervention. And thank you for your participation, Her Excellency, US Ambassador. Thank you for your presence.